anyone you know avoids taking up new opportunities, feels unloved, unwanted, or maybe unworthy, blames others for situations in their life, has difficulty dealing with normal levels of frustration that life throws at us. There's a lot of negative self-talk going on in their heads and has a fear of failure or maybe embarrassment, has difficulty making new friends. If you answered yes to any of the above questions, then today's episode is for you. Hi, this is Shikha Tiwari and welcome to another episode at UReInvent. A couple of weeks back, I did a video on how to raise children with high self-esteem. In this video, I talked about what is self-esteem and why is it important, and how to, what can you do to help children build their own self-esteem. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'm putting up a link here. It's helpful to watch that. But today we are going to take this discussion a bit further. And we're going to explore how a lack of self-esteem impacts our life as an adult. And what can we do about it? And to shed some light on this topic, we have Dr. Ruta Vyas. Dr. Vyas has a total of 20 years of work experience in executive coaching and corporate leadership development. She has a PhD in leadership behavior from NMIMS and works with senior leaders, both Indian nationals and expatriates. She also has an MBA from IIM Bangalore. Currently, she is the director of Amadeus Consulting and studies how self-esteem impacts our behavior, our attitude, and thereby our growth. Today, we will be exploring three key areas. What are some of the telltale signs that indicate that I have low self-esteem? What can we as adults do to build our own self-esteem? And lastly, but most importantly, explore that how can we help our children, coach our children who are grown-ups, teenagers or a little older than that, to build their own self-esteem. Thank you so much, Dr. Vyas, for taking out the time to be here today. I know with your work and everything, it's very difficult, especially on a Sunday afternoon. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Shikha.
So is self-esteem an indicator of how good or rich our lives are going to be? What's your experience there?
Yeah, I think that's a really good likeness to life and self, Shikha. And I cannot overemphasize the role that self-esteem plays in one's life and the multifarious ways in which it takes seed in one's life to show up in so many different ways in a person's lifetime. So the seeds sown in childhood at the age of 2 or 3 will still be visible in the form of a tree when that person is 80 or 90 years old.
Wow.
So that is the potential of this feeling of self-esteem. And Shikha, the word esteem comes from the word estimare in Latin, which talks about the value of.
Okay.
So we look at self-esteem as a value
of your own.
And I would say, unfortunately, people have brought down the whole word of self-esteem, self being life, into the value put by others on us.
Yeah.
It's even so bizarre to think about it that something as valuable as life is what you take to your vegetable vendor in the roadside to ask him to value it. It's as bizarre as that.
Yeah.
So in today's session, Shikha, I'm very happy you're taking up this topic, which is very, very underplayed in today's in the world, and I think it's something that a great service being done to mankind if more and more people like you can bring this to the forefront early on in life.
Early on, yes. I think, in fact, that's how I reached out to you, because I feel this is such an underplayed, that's the right word. It's such an underplayed topic. We don't know how it manifests, especially with older people, because everything kind of, gets a tag of some personality trait, introvert, maybe not confident enough, doesn't trust enough, he or she doesn't like to hang out with people. So it becomes a label, but we don't
True.
realize that what those labels cost us or are
Absolutely.
costing the other person. So
Absolutely.
great. So we are going to, try to do some bit of deconstructing here today. So let's start with what are some of the telltale signs, what are some of the specific signs, like someone, an adult like me or you, or, a grown up, 20-year-old child also can kind of, reflect back and say, hey, you know what, I think I have some self-esteem issues. So could you help us there?
Yeah, I wish it were as simple as people realizing maybe I have self-esteem issues. It's not as easy as people recognizing it also. But yeah, I
Exactly.
think one can wake up and look at oneself and look at your loved ones around you to spot if there are these telltale issues.
Okay.
So let me look at it from an adult perspective, because that's the kind of people I usually come face to face with.
Right.
I find them showing up in so many dysfunctional ways of being and working, and I can see it stems from issues of low self-worth. So Shikha, you'll find when adults find that the whole world is out to get them, everybody feels a constant sense of being cheated, being used, a constant self of being on one's guard, that people are out to get me, and I've got to protect myself. And sadly or ironically, both low self-esteem can show up in both aggressive and passive ways. So on one hand, you will find people with low self-esteem becoming bullies. You might actually think that that is a sign of high self-confidence, but it's not. It's people who are extracting their worth from others. They gain their self-worth by showing other people down. So they rise up in their own esteem by only pushing other people down. So you'll find people being bullies, people being very aggressive, people dressing down others in meetings, people being overtly rude or overtly critical of other people. Not sharing credit, not giving credit to people's work. All those are telltale signs of the person's own self-esteem being very fragile. On the other hand, you'll have the other end of the continuum, where people with low self-esteem will show up in signs of being intimidated, being overly nice, being people-pleasing, trying to get people to like them, because that's when they feel a sense of worthiness. Overly agreeable, very, very submissive, not standing up for what they believe in, not wanting to meet people out of their comfort zone, finding the whole world being risky and fearful. Unfortunately, all of those on either end of the continuum are signs of low self-esteem in adults.
It's interesting, and I'm glad you shared that, it's not that easy, because most often we don't know that these behaviors or these reactions are actually coming from a much deeper, problem. And if you don't know, how do you, fix it or treat it? So what's interesting was you mentioned a trait where people kind of, talk you down or are intimidating because they kind of, want to put you down. And I think this is probably one of the greatest myths, I would say, because when somebody's being loud and aggressive and, putting you down, you kind of feel that, oh my God, this person is the boss of it all. And must be super intelligent, super smart, and that's why he's doing that to me. And if people in both these continuums kind of get together, it's like a vicious mix, right?
Yeah. So in fact, I often say people are not bad, people are just sad. And because they are sad, they act bad. Yeah.
Wow,
it's the kind of pathology that sets in.
Yeah. And we don't step back to kind of question ourselves that, okay, why am I behaving like this? Why am I doing that? And that's why I feel that, this is such a huge topic, of course, for parents, for younger children, which, like I shared with you earlier also, I've discussed that piece in another video. But I think even as adults, if you just become a little bit more conscious of it, you will probably start to, rethread the whole behavior. And that
Absolutely.
brings me
You'll
to my.
find adults, you'll find adults who get into a continuous comparison mode.
Mm,
People comparing themselves with their colleagues, with their friends,
mm,
and comparing themselves in all kinds of ways, not just their layer in the organization or in the hierarchy, but also in
mm.
terms of how much you earn, how what your family is like, where you live, how you look, how you talk, what's your educational qualification, and you're constantly just in this crazy evaluation of yourself. And the sad part is, Shikha, nobody else is evaluating you. Nobody else has even bothered to think about you.
Right. That
But
self-talk is just,
you
going
you
on
are
in your head.
constantly putting yourself in the microscope, and every day you are appearing for an exam, and that is low self-worth. Every day you need to pass the exam to know you're worth it, and that is a huge a factor that consumes your time and your mind space in pathological ways.
This conversation is a gold mine already. I'm so glad I got together with you, and we are doing
Yeah,
this.
no, because I see this around me all the time, and I really feel that I wish somebody had helped these guys out when they were kids,
Right.
because somewhere that's where the seeds have
That's
been
where it's.
sown. So for parents who want to look at their children and be alert to some telltale signs, and then we'll talk about later what parents can do
Right.
to
Mhm.
avert these or
Yeah.
to manage these. But yeah, parents need to look out on their children if their children are becoming bullies, if their kids are in some way getting defiant at home, or being overly nice, if
Nice.
they're wanting to please their friends all the time. If you constantly hear comparisons with other kids, or what other kids are doing or what other kids are learning, you will
Mm.
find some beginnings of self-doubt.
Some
If
questioning
you find
happening.
kids becoming overly arrogant or overly bullying other kids,
Mhm.
yeah, that's also somewhere a sign that there's a weakness in them, that they need to derive the strength from other people.
Interesting you bring that up, because like I shared with with people who are intimidating, children who are bullies, when the person who got bullied, or the child who got bullied, got back home, his parents may figure out a way to deal with it, but never is it that the person who's bullying
Correct.
his or her, because
Correct.
that person doesn't go back to his parents and say that, oh, you know what,
Correct.
I bullied in the park today.
And sometimes, Shikha, the sad part is sometimes some parents also feel proud of their kids being the bully, and they say, "Oh, बहुत शैतान है वो, बहुत मजाक
इसने तो
करता
उसको
है,
सिखा दिया,
बहुत बहुत शैतान है वो," and the kid begins to feel like, "Wow,
I
see,
did
this
something.
got me the label I wanted."
Yeah.
Yeah, and now everything's allowed for me. So the parent is unknowingly sowing these seeds of,
Right.
without understanding why does the child feel the need to bully.
Correct.
Yeah, what is he trying to get from this act?
Right.
So kids who become bullies, on the other hand, kids who also become very competitive, who want to win all the time. You may
Yeah.
have seen kids who, even in a silly game of snakes and ladders, hate to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you start seeing a kid who's always wanting to win and gets very upset when he or she loses,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can start
That's
looking at a sense of self-worth that's coming from that small victory. What makes a child want that victory so badly?
Yeah. What is it doing to his or her soul?
Yes, and or the child becoming overly parent pleasing, wanting to be, getting constant positive strokes from the parent, because he or she lacks or has that feeling that he or she is not perfectly all right. And so each time the parent appreciates or applauds him or her, she begins to feel a sense of worthiness.
Mm-hmm.
And if the parent doesn't do it, and then you'll find clingy behavior.
Mm-hmm.
The child doesn't want to go anywhere without the parent,
Mm-hmm.
because it feels that from the parent comes my value. Only my parent values me. Otherwise, I'm valueless.
Right. Right.
So these are all telltale signs that you've got to start watching out, from an early age, and then do something about it.
Do something about it. Yes. So let's get to that. Brings us to the next part. That what do I as an adult? I have noticed. So for the continuum that you mentioned, I'm on the other side. I'm fighting it very, how would I say, as hard as I can. But I've been a people pleaser all my life, right? Of course, when I identify that, okay, this is where most of my relationship problems are coming in, it's not them, it's what I do in the relationship that's causing me to feel, XYZ, that I kind of stopped uh, putting boundaries in place. And of course, that shakes things up, right? So,
Yeah.
but I did this at the age of maybe 35, and I was conscious about it. So, but I went about it intuitively. So let's get to what we can do, of to build our own self-esteem if we see any of the signs that you mentioned earlier. So where do I begin?
Yeah. So, Shikha, the place to begin is from where you are today. Um, a lot of people, especially adults, try to peel the onion and go back into their childhood, and that takes the shape of psychotherapy. And there's nothing wrong with that branch of science, and that's a science in itself. And you've got to get to the heart of it and then weed it out. Yeah, but I belong to the school of thought that you're now adults. You cannot undo what happened in the past, and you can blame the heavens till kingdom come for what you have become today. Yeah? But what really works is not to find the blame or to find the cause, but to start acting on whatever it is that you get a sense of worthiness from.
Right.
So a few things to start, very simple things to start doing, Shikha, is to recognize your emotions and to start getting in touch with when you feel down or when you take certain decisions that don't make you feel happy. Yeah. Just notice those moments when you don't feel happy with the decision you've taken, but you've taken it anyway. Okay, I'll give you a very simple example. This was a time when I was very young. I mean, I'm still young, but it was a time when I was much younger, and I was recently divorced. And and my ex-husband and I belonged to the same batchmates. We were in the same batch in college, and when we got divorced, a lot of friends were common. And there was a time when I would not want to go and be in those gatherings. There used to be alumni meets, there used to be get-togethers, and I would avoid them all.
Right.
Because I felt a sense of, that I'm not good enough. I don't value myself much anymore. I'm ashamed of what has happened.
How it turned out, yeah.
Yeah, how it's turned out. How do I face everybody? What do people say about me? What reaction will, and the sad part was that nobody else cared. It was just all in my head. But yeah, at that time I did not question it, and I continued to retreat into a shell. But today when I look back, and now when I take a decision, and I knew I did not feel happy not being there, but I still did not be there. So the situations like this, when you feel you're not happy but you're still doing something, ask yourself, what is making you do that? And question the rationale behind your decision, and then challenge that decision. Challenge it, look for evidence to prove yourself wrong or right, and then challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone, to take a risk. Now, what happens with low self-esteem is that you feel you will not be able to face up to a failure. And that fear kind of keeps you from taking anything that could result in failure.
Right.
So, like you're saying, in a relationship, you become people pleasing because you're afraid that if I say something, I will lose this relationship. So that fear of failure is what keeps us from trying anything we want to try.
Correct.
So somewhere you got to just take that step out, because all of us know that reality is usually is much better than our worst imagination.
Right.
And as an adult, start doing things that you fear. Start doing things that make you feel unpleasant. It may be difficult in the beginning, but one baby step forward at a time.
But it feels right in your heart and soul, like you feel at peace, and it's uncomfortable. It's something, it's like, how a child starts walking and falls, and you still have to stand up and walk again,
Correct.
Something like that.
Push yourself to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable. The other thing you've got to stop saying or stop doing is repeating some learned beliefs about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people often say silly things that they have believed about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, you know, I never finish things I start. Said who? Said who?
Right. Yeah.
People say, oh, I'm joining a gym, but I know I'll stop in 2 months. Says who?
Right.
We give power to so many other things besides ourselves. We give away our personal power by
Right.
allowing ourselves to conveniently believe these naked disbeliefs.
Sorry to interrupt there, but are we kind of? I always get confused with this part. That are we deliberately jeopardizing because we don't want to pursue it? So are we looking for an excuse to
Yes,
not going to the gym? You know?
Yeah, it's absolutely that. So you stay within your boundaries. You stay within your safety zone, because tomorrow, if I don't lose weight, I can blame that one person, saying that, I always knew this was going to happen. I always waste money. I never finish things I start. See, this is one more thing I have given up. So it's like you're creating for yourself a license to lose. And
validating your self-talk.
Yeah, in the short term, it feels good. But in the long term, it is debilitating, because every time you give up, you don't finish something you started, your belief about yourself has become stronger. And that's a horribly vicious cycle that we set into motion for ourselves.
Right.
So as an adult, Shikha, I think it all boils down to self-responsibility.
Right.
To take responsibility for yourself and for your worth. So in this one book I was reading on self-esteem, it says 4 magic words. 4 magic words, Shikha, that really changed my life, and it always still continues to change my mindset. Is no one is coming.
Oh, it's my favorite. No one is coming to rescue you.
No one is coming. So if you want to lose
stop
weight,
waiting.
You figure out a way to do it. You want to finish things you start, you've got to finish it.
Yes.
And that's the kind of self-responsibility that you take. And no one is coming, right? So stop building this very comfortable fence around yourself, blaming, conveniently laughing it off to say that, oh, I'm like this, I can't.
Very interesting point you raised here. Oftentimes you would have heard people saying that they get into this loop of I cannot do this because somebody will get unhappy. This person doesn't allow me to do this. This person doesn't allow me to sleep until 10 o'clock in the morning. This person doesn't allow me to, let's say, wear a sari. I want to wear a sari all the time, but this person doesn't like it. So are these, and I mean, these are very silly. I like sabzi with curry, but this person doesn't like sabzi with curry, right?
Yeah.
So these are indications of, and my question is, make sabzi with curry for yourself. So what's the big deal?
So
what is happening there?
Somewhere, Shikha, we value others, and we give more value to others' needs over our own needs.
And that's people-pleasing continuum coming into
absolutely. And that becomes a kind of, that's also a sign of self-esteem, low self-esteem, because by pleasing you, you will love me.
Right.
And by getting your love, I feel worthy. So my worthiness comes from your loving me. And so I will do things that will make you love me. But what we don't realize is that you can only give when you have enough.
Right.
At a certain point of time, you run dry.
Right.
Your pitcher runs dry, and you can no longer give any longer. And that's when a sense of resentment comes in.
Exactly.
Like, I've always been giving. I've always been giving. And that resentment is what then becomes a seed of poison in any relationship.
Or any.
It's the classic I'm okay, you're okay, seesaw.
Yeah.
That because I feel not okay, I'll let you have everything, because by letting you have everything, you will love me in return.
Right.
But
Right.
then unfortunately, that I'm okay, I'm not okay, you are okay, continuum is not sustainable. Because at one time,
Right.
you
You will
begin to
run
feel
right,
victim.
like you said, yeah.
And
And
then
I
this
think the
my
beauty,
bechara,
wait, because the beauty there is you are giving in to wearing, let's say, jeans, even though you don't like to wear jeans, is to make the other person happy. But the other person's way of expressing his or her love for you is something else, right? It is not aligned to your way of feeling the love. So you're like, you know what? I did so much for you, and there you are. You don't appreciate it. So it becomes a very bad
and
cycle.
it's very dangerous. It's in a relationship, it's very, very dangerous, Shikha, because this low self-esteem is like a snake. It it'll wrangle you and pull you down.
Okay.
Then you begin to constantly feel defensive. You're constantly protecting yourself. You're constantly feeling victimized. And that whole persecution complex steps in, that the world is out to persecute me. And that makes you, in a relationship, makes you very, very negative. And two people who should be equals are just constantly vying for this love from each other, and it's a tug of war. And that becomes, over time, the relationship will not survive, for sure.
What happened? We talked quite a bit about the other side of the continuum, where we're talking about people pleasers and who do things, who kind of gain their self-worth from pleasing other people. Take an example of people who gain their self-worth from putting the other person down. What's happening there, and what can they do to kind of change the cycle?
Well, unfortunately, Shikha, like you said, the people who get bullied, often call for help. But the bullies themselves never get called out, which is also the reason why people who behave like this rarely have people who have the guts to tell them on their face that this is poor behavior. So, unfortunately, they keep doing what they've done or what they are used to doing, because there's nobody to correct them. In organizations, of course, nowadays you have a lot of 360 feedback. You have upward, down, upward feedback from your teams, etc., which kind of slaps people on their face and tells them you better shape up. This is not acceptable. Yeah, and then you have help for them. But in the real world, with personal relationships or even organizations which don't have such mechanisms, people go through a lifetime being bullies and suffering in psychological ways. And they don't realize what they're doing to themselves, because over time they begin to isolate themselves. They don't have any real friends. They don't have people talking openly with them. They don't have anybody talking honestly with them. And over time they get isolated, because they've made enemies around them, and then it's probably too late to wake up. So I would say that,
realize that, because if I am powerful, or at least I'm pretending to be powerful, I'm getting my way.
Correct. Exactly, which is why people feel this is the right way.
My life.
Yeah, and in the short term, they'll get the sense of victory and the sense of power. But in the long term, they know that it's not working for them, because they'll often have personal issues, they'll have family issues. Their team members will start to isolate them. They'll be left out. They will be passed up for promotions. And that's when they will. Yeah, they do. A lot of organizations today pay a lot of value to their human relations. And even if your results are great, if your 360 feedback or your feedback from peers and stakeholders and team members is not good, I'm sorry, you won't get promoted. And that's when it's too late for them to go back and set things right. That's when people like me come in to help them.
I know, yeah.
Recenter.
Let's get in the center.
But having said that, Shikha, I would say people should continuously seek feedback.
Yeah.
From people around them, loved ones, trusted people, friends, colleagues, and ask them, how am I doing? Because some of these things, you could be blindsided. It could be a complete blind spot for you.
Yeah.
So, but if you ask good people for feedback on yourself, then you might wake up a bit early and you could set things right before too much is lost.
So we talked about people pleasing, the intimidating behavior. What is the normal behavior? What am I looking for, or what's my goal behavior?
Yeah, I think that's such a big question, Shikha. And I think as I say, there's a lovely poem by Sant Narsi Mehta, a Gujarati poet saint. You may have heard his name. He has a lovely line, 4 lines in his song. It's actually a song. It says that Vedato ema vade stuti tuti charake.
Okay.
It says that the Veda says, this is a line from the Vedas. He says, Kanaka Kundal Vishay Veda na hoy. Bhed na hoy. So Kanak and Kundal are jewelry pieces. Saying jewelry pieces, a ring and a necklace will be different. Yeah. But ante to hem no hem hoy, which is at the end of it, they are both gold. Once the gold is cast into a mold, it takes either the shape of a ring or a necklace. But the gold, the ring and the necklace should both remember that ultimately they are both the same. So I think the message for all of us should be that whether you are thin or fat or tall or short or educated or not, or clever or not, or introvert or extrovert, or whatever you might be, at the end of it, we're all the same. To be comfortable and to be respectful of who you are,
right?
To be happy with what you are,
right?
To be celebrating your uniqueness, and to celebrate your flaws as well as your strengths in same proportion.
Right.
A certain equanimity with your successes and your failures. A certain sense of humor, a sense of lightness about our flaws and failures.
Right.
A certain sense of forgiveness towards our shortcomings.
Yeah.
As well as a certain sense of celebration of
or you did well.
Whatever we are, without having to pretend, without having to please anybody else. That is what we should all aspire to be. A certain lightness of being, as they say. Not in a defiant way, मैं तो ऐसा ही हूँ, not that kind of attitude. But मैं ऐसा हूँ, this is me.
This is me.
This is the shape that the gold has cast in me.
Right. Yeah. So true, because oftentimes we are so judgmental of, how I look, how my hair is, my skin color, and, skin color is kind of slowly evading, but
not yet.
Height and weight are,
too much.
It's still,
where you live, where you study, what you eat, where you travel, what language you speak, what is your background, what do your parents do, what do your children do, all of those become price tags on us. And we price the jewelry, we forget the gold.
Yes. That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So, that line is, so powerful for me each time that I hear that song. Just to say it out for you properly, if you would allow me a moment, it says, ema vade shruti snuti sakhade kanaka kundal vishay bhed na hoy. Kanak and kundal vishay bhed na hoy. Ghat ghadiya pachi naam roop junjava. After you put the shape, the name and the shape changes. But at the end of it, we are all just pure gold. And that is something we should not allow ourselves to
remember.
Yeah.
Great. So we've learned how to, kind of deal with that, any of these self-esteem issues that may be cropping up as adults, right? You recognize, you do something about it, do something that is uncomfortable but feels good in your heart and soul. It kind of aligned with what you're feeling. It's not like, your head is saying something else, but it kind of makes you feel cringed inside. Not that. You question yourself, question your behavior, question why you're doing what you're doing, and then kind of, figure your way out. Is there a specific route that parents can take? And we're not talking about younger children here. We're talking about children who are, teenagers or older. 18, 19, 20. Because honestly speaking, like I was sharing with you the other day, I get calls from people, not that, this initiative is very big, but it's just that you have a network of people over time, right? And people reach out and they say their child is not doing X and not doing Y. I mean, not going out in the world and talking. And in fact, yesterday I was talking to a parent and her daughter is, I think, 13, 14 or something. And she feels that she hesitates to take part in school, activities. She's very good in her own self. But when it comes to being part of a group, she's like, what, I'm off. So it could be a personality thing, but, as a parent, she wants to build that, skill that, okay, at least be open to working with people, So what can parents do, some quick 4 or 5 tips if we can get from you.
Sure. And Shikha, while you did mention about older kids in their teenagers, I think a lot of things we need to be mindful of, even when kids are very small. So I think one is this whole thing, Shikha, about parents wanting to do this for their children. Not recognizing it that the child will take his or her own personality shape by the time they're 18 or 20.
Mm-hmm.
As a parent, our job is to provide them the opportunities.
Correct.
Our job is not to push them into those opportunities.
Right.
A nudge here and there is fine.
Yeah.
But otherwise, making the child do something he or she doesn't enjoy doing at this stage will only make them feel inadequate. And that will lead to worse beliefs they will build up about themselves. Even a belief which is not there will start getting built up, that I'm not comfortable in school activities, because she hears the mother say that so often. And that's the big thing, Shikha. Parents these days have no limits and no boundaries. They talk in front of their kids.
Yeah,
and they don't realize that the children are listening to every word.
Everything.
I would not be surprised if a parent calls you yesterday and is talking to you on the phone, and the child is in the other room and
maybe in the other room. Yeah.
And the child begins to believe that I have a problem. I am not good because I'm not good with school activities. See, this is who I am. I'm a bad kid.
Right.
I'm not good enough for my mom. My mom wants me to be different.
With my daughter, my experience is not just speaking, it's feeling.
Yeah.
She's so sensitive to that. Even if you're feeling agitated, and it will not result, I mean, she's young, so I don't know what manifestation it will take, but if I'm feeling pestered or perturbed because of something external, she will cling to me. She will not, be okay in doing what she's doing. Absolutely. So it baffles me that if a child can feel what you're feeling, imagine what he or she feels when you speak it out,
Absolutely. So be very watchful, I would say, tell to parents that be very watchful what you talk to the child and what you say about the child. Because somewhere your own beliefs are manifesting in your language. They're manifesting in your body language. They're manifesting in the decisions you are taking. So be very, very mindful of the language you are using around your kids. The other thing I would say is let the child do what they want to do in the way that they want to do it without having to look for the grade they'll get in school. So if they work on a project and it's not great, don't jump in to improve it. Don't, in the name of good parenting and participating, don't go in and take over.
Yeah.
Because the message you're giving the child is you could not do this on your own.
Yeah.
And the child begins to believe that, I needed help.
I need help.
And the child grows up believing that, that I cannot do things well without help. The third thing I would say is that give your child responsibility without the fear of mistakes and without the fear of reprimand. I know a lot of parents who are so anxious. They'll say, "Beta, get that bottle from the fridge. Yeah, give auntie some water. Girana mat, huh?
It is kind of on the planet.
Don't drop it. Huh? Be careful. Huh? You always drop things.
Yeah.
You are butterfinger.
That's going on.
Yeah, and that's a belief building up a practice already. That I have butterfingers. I can never do this right. Yeah, so be very watchful of the very subtle messages that you are giving. Be very, very mindful also of comparisons you're making, even
Oh,
among
good.
siblings. Like,
Mm-hmm.
see your older brother, see how talkative he is, see how nicely he sang a song. Why can't you do that? You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's another doubt in my mind, that I'm not as good, I'm not valuable enough
Enough.
because I'm not as good as my brother is.
Right, right, right.
And growing up, while the brother wants to go abroad to study, the little one will say, "No, I'm better off going to a local college because I'm not very good at
I'm
this."
not good at it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of snowballs into a lot of other things she will cut herself off from, you know, as
Mm.
she grows older. Yeah. One of
Yeah.
the things, sorry, you're saying something.
No, when I introduced this video, I was talking about, how a person with low self esteem will not even attempt at the opportunities. And see, that's
Yeah,
almost fatal because you don't know whether you're going to be good or bad. You're just saying that, I don't want to do it.
true. You know, I know of a very dear friend's family who have this underwritten belief, and the parents are very proud to keep repeating that. Ki, hamare family, we don't have sports people. Sports is not in our blood. Now,
So
when they
if
keep
the child
saying that,
wants
the
to play
children
it.
are hearing,
Yeah.
and the child gets a chance to, play, even play in the building compound with their friends. But she'll always be out first.
Oh,
She'll be
because
caught out first because she believes that, oh, you know, in my family we are
you
not
don't do
runners,
this.
we are not sports
Yeah.
people, we are not athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is the kind of script that you are giving your script to your children. I also see a lot of parents with low self-esteem
Oh, huge.
who kind of derive their power from what the children do. So I know parents who want their children to learn an instrument and pass the Trinity College exam so that they can tell their friends that my daughter is doing Trinity.
Yeah.
It is the parents' lack of self-worth
Lack of self worth. Yeah.
just getting their, oh, my son, you know, he is playing football with so and so club.
Mm.
So, you know, it's the parent who is
Yeah.
making the child play football with so and so club
And
because the
so,
parent feels like now I'm equal in society.
right.
Uh,
And it's a double-edged sword because parents feel and that I need to tell the child, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old child also, what he or she needs to do in life. And my problem there is, if you need to tell the child what he or she needs to do, you've already failed as a parent.
True, absolutely. You have
I
taken away their power, their
Yes.
own thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the days I posted that, does your child say yes to everything that you ask them to do? Congratulations, you've taken away the power. Because,
Correct.
you know, I mean, I think when I was growing up, we of course didn't have this kind of this was not a conversation that how you were growing up, what is the parenting language, what is the attitude. People grew up, right?
Yeah.
With
No
our
awareness
own.
then.
And my favorite piece is that's why we're all messed up. So, but it's the awareness and it's the work that you do that's important.
No,
Anyhow,
and I think parents, adults need to really mind their language,
yes.
and they really need to be watchful of what they say. A parent who's constantly criticizing herself, saying, oh my God, I'm having a bad hair day. Why is my hair, like this? Why can't it be better? The child is listening, and so this my favorite quotation, Shikha, is that don't worry that they don't obey you. Don't
Yeah.
worry that they don't obey you. Just worry that they are looking at you all the time.
Right. Yes.
So you've got to
So
be
true.
so careful about what the way, the language you use with your children.
Mm-hmm.
I've also seen, one of the big things that at very early ages affects children is families or parents who don't get along with each other. I think there is strife in the home, and the child begins to feel embarrassed about that.
Mm.
Somewhere the child starts to hide many things about their home
Mm-hmm.
to their outside world,
Right, right, right.
and in their need to look good to their friends or in school or wherever, they begin to put on a front, and that is the starting of hiding from the world.
Right.
That is starting from believing that my life is not so good as
Good
the
enough.
others.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My worth is lower than the worth of others. So I think parents need to make a go of the relationship and have a healthy relationship among themselves. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, and if they
It is
can't, then
huge
they
because in
better get
India, especially if you have a child, you have to drag the relationship. What's going to happen with the
correct.
child?
Correct.
And
And so you're building up a whole world the child has to hide.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So be careful there. Be careful about the way you talk to the child. Be
Mm.
careful how you talk about the child.
About the child,
Uh,
yes.
to other people, and be careful that you're not passing down your learned scripts to your children, because somewhere I've heard, one of my one person I know who keeps saying that, in my family relationships don't last.
Oh.
And
Oh,
this is her script,
yeah,
that
this
in
is
my in my family we are not meant for long term relationships.
mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if her son or her daughter
It will not,
grow up to have poor relationships
or at
themselves.
least they'll have to work very hard to, kind of,
I, I think they will not even do that. They will be subconsciously, if they don't recognize it today.
yeah, you're right. Yeah,
And by the time they realize it, it probably might be too late. So, as parents, I mean, of course, the child will have their own destiny. That's different.
right. Yeah,
But
for
I think
sure.
we as parents need to be careful how much we unload, offload to our kids.
Correct.
In the quest for our own self esteem, how much are we passing on to our children?
Our children.
Um, got to
Right.
be mindful.
That's why I feel parenting is not about raising a child. It's about raising yourself so that you can be the parent your child deserves. The child will grow no
Absolutely.
matter what,
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like if you're, most parents feed their children. So if you're feeding, the child is growing.
Correct.
So, and the child is absorbing from the environment no matter what you are saying. What you're saying is
Correct.
pretty much irrelevant. So, are you raising yourself? Are you fighting
Yeah.
your own demons?
Absolutely.
That is the question that each parent, I think, needs to ask. And we all have demons, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just that
True. There's
which one
nothing
is
to
mine?
hide.
So which
Yeah.
one is mine? Which one do I work on? And like I
Absolutely.
have always been, huge, and lately I've reached a point. I was like, you know what, I don't care. Like, and wearing sarees was in a way of hiding the, bumps. But I genuinely adore, the craft, the work, the handiwork, and especially, in our country, you have sarees from all over this place, right? My daughter, the moment I will wear a sari, she will tell me, "Oh, mom, you're looking so pretty." But if you
Mhm.
tell her to wear something Indian, especially let's say on a Diwali or something, she will make such a sad face and make sure that you remove it and change her into a dress or a frock or something, and only then she'll be fine. And I'm sharing this because, see, I love wearing Indian, right? And my child does not love wearing Indian. And touch wood, she looks very pretty when she wears Indian stuff, right? And most girls would look like that, right? It's a struggle. But I try to respect that she does not like it. She does not feel good in herself wearing what I am asking her to wear. And that should be
Right.
okay.
Right.
Should still look at my child and say, "Oh, you look so pretty and beautiful," And she
Right.
should feel beautiful more than me saying it, actually. But it's a very tiny example of how our beliefs, our wants kind of get,
Yeah.
passed on. Like, this is what you should wear. This is, oh, you look so nice in this. And
Absolutely.
it becomes their inner script, like you're saying.
True. True. And even with as kids grow older, we need to start talking to them more as sensible, mature. And today's kids, even at 14, 13, are very, very mature. So beginning to level with them, beginning to share with them, beginning to even take their inputs and not
Mhm.
treat them and giving them their space without crowding, without making them feel incompetent.
Right.
can really grow them into self-sufficient, independent, well-functioning adults. And
So,
somewhere I think good conversations are useful to get them to. So, Shikha, my underlying premise is that the best gift you can give your child as he grows up is self-awareness, um, and insight.
right.
The chance to look within, the chance to analyze yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, chance to take independent thought
Mm,
is what you want to ultimately create in your kids.
right.
The rest of it, they will look after it.
Exactly. I mean, when parents share that, my child doesn't listen to me, it's like, great. He or she has a mind of his own.
Mm.
Why do you want your child to listen to you? Unless he or she is
Yeah.
jumping off the railing or something. Eh, We as parents, I think we struggle with authority and autonomy. Children want their own autonomy. They want to. The other day, I read something very nice. Children don't want your power; they want their own power.
Sure. Yeah.
They don't want to steal away. It's just that you have to figure out where is your power coming from of controlling this person, and that's why it's important for parents to be healthily, mindfully, creatively occupied elsewhere. Not make this a
Absolutely.
mission that oh, I'm
Yeah.
going to put my child to Harvard. No, 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 no. Your child will go wherever he or she wants to. Please do your own, focus on your life too. Great. Any particular tips about grown-up children? You said that have a conversation, give them more responsibility, more without the fear of making mistakes, and any sort of punishment is not involved. It's just trying to do more than what you did yesterday. So, anything more you would like to add there for grown-ups?
Yeah, I think I'm just going by experience, Shikha, and I find that allowing the kid to experiment with things that they want to experiment with, and taking their own valuation on how things are. I would think that allowing the child to experiment with what they want to experiment, have their own circle of friends,
Mm-hmm.
which they can, and not all of them you will like, but giving them a chance to play with their own lives in a way that, of course, unless they're going into criminal company or something, but
Yeah.
let them have that experience on their own. There's only so much we can teach them. There's
Right.
only so much we can protect them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, be around. I think being a good listener, being available
Mm.
to your child is extremely important at all ages. Very
All
often
ages.
people say, now he's grown up, now he doesn't need me.
It
That's
doesn't
wrong.
move. Yeah.
I think even at grown up ages, kids do want someone whom they can trust, someone they can share with, someone they can open up with,
Mm-hmm.
and share their feelings or fears
Right.
or even insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many insecurities about how am I looking, how is my hair, am I smart, am I doing
Right.
well, will
Mm.
I be good in life, will I be a success, am I a loser in certain things. There's so
Right.
many thoughts that come up in their mind.
Mm.
I think what we can just be is very good listeners, very empathetic, non-judgmental, and available.
Right.
Um,
And
we take a more
add,
of a coaching approach and not a teacher
yes,
approach.
exactly. Coaching, yeah. To add to what you just said, so parents kind of feel if I talk well about my child in front of my child, it will, kind of make my
Boost
child feel
his
too
self-esteem.
arrogant. So
Mm.
there has to be a
So,
healthy balance of, because if you continue to talk to your neighbor of how your child did well, but not talk in front of your child never knows.
but Shikha, on the other hand, I've also seen people do quite the other extreme.
Hmm.
They can't stop praising their child in front of their child.
And
And then
that leads to another set of problems.
the other extreme, the child gets into this overinflated sense of self,
Right.
and then he or she is unable to take critical feedback or failures from other people.
Other people,
Uh,
right.
yeah, so both are equally damaging.
Important.
I say let's not overdo the praise,
Yeah.
and let's not overdo the criticism.
Right.
Praise when praise is due,
Right.
and a rap when a rap is justified.
Yeah, I think it's the connect and trust, like you mentioned, that's important. And then, because then everything will be taken in the right, perspective.
In the right spirit. Yeah, you can't overdo either.
Yeah.
Both can be equally dangerous.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vyas. I can't thank you enough. This has been such an insightful conversation. I don't know about my viewers. I'm going back, with this conversation. I'm going to have my cup of tea and reflect on what you've just taught us. It's huge,
Yeah, likewise.
mind blowing.
Likewise. Even your experiences and questions have been thought provoking, and we live and learn, right? And
Yes.
it's never a parent's job is never done.
Yeah.
And I think our own life journey, it is. I would probably just want to end by saying, Shikha, that developing a healthy sense of self is a matter of health,
Right.
physical health.
Physical.
And we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our soul to make the most of the life we've been given.
Yes.
Let us not take our soul out in the marketplace for people to value.
Value it, right. So beautiful. I'm not going to say
Let's
anything. End with that. And thank you so much.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this chance. And I look forward to more helping you out or working with your parents in the future. All the best.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.